What's up, Otakus? How you guys doing? Uh, your tour guide back, and last week, last week was kind of a scatterbrain episode. I had just uh, been gifted a collection, which we kind of went through, and there was a lot of. It was a long video, first off, but I wasn't really showing the books. I wasn't really even knowing what I was looking through. There were a lot of cards, so it was quite a chaotic uh, session, and I apologize for that. I do tend to get lost in organizing stuff, or yeah, especially when I'm cleaning books or doing something. I tend to get very hyper focused on what I'm doing, and I don't focus on you know engaging with you guys on the channel and having sort of a coherent flow to what we're doing. So, again, apologies for that, but today's show, I'm going to try to keep it a little bit more structured and present things that, we normally do on the show, which is like focus on comic calls, focus on either, books in my collection, focus on things I'm looking for, um, and things of that nature. And more recently, I've been trying to incorporate sort of a time machine, um, where I take a comic book from a specific period and we kind of go back to that date when that comic book was published and look at things that were happening in pop culture in terms of music and in terms of film. So hopefully it's kind of a nice sort of time machine back just to remember that period of time, what was going on in pop culture, and hopefully just, um, you know, spark a few good memories for you guys. I know it's definitely sparked some good memories for me. So the other thing we're going to do in this session is kind of take a look at some of the highlights from that big haul. We went through a lot of comic books, and rather than torturing you to watch that again, I'm just going to I picked out some of the books that are highlights from that big haul, along with I think the biggest thing from that collection that we'll cover, and I want to show off again too, because in the video I neglected to show off the big item from that haul. It was kind of hidden from me as well. I didn't realize that that card was there until you know everything was kind of packed away and I stopped filming the video. So we'll kind of cover what we picked up in that haul, uh, go over what I picked up this week. Very modest pickup this week, but we'll start with the kind of look back. We call it the comic jukebox, or I guess I think time machine is, I think, a little better. But yeah, I've just posted a video on the book we're going to focus on. And before, we're going to start it off with a little tidbit of the song. Now, I don't know how, if I'm going to continue to share the clip that I upload, because I'm getting flagged for copyright violations, and I'm just thinking it has to do with the fact that I'm playing the song too long. So we're going to try to do this, where I just kind of briefly just give you a taste of the song. And most of you who grew up in my era, Gen Xers, will appreciate this group because they were such a big. I mean, I think I covered. I might have no, I didn't cover one of their songs previously, but I easily could have. Their songs were, charted throughout this period that we're talking about. Um, This one isn't necessarily one of my favorites by this group, but it definitely is one of the more catchier like tunes that kind of stick with you and stay in your head. So I'm just gonna kind of play it and then we'll go from there. All right. So not much of that song, yeah, but for those of you from my era, will instantly recognize that tune as "Stuck with You" by Huey Lewis and the News. That was the number one song in October of 1986, which is when this comic book, The Man of Steel number one, came out. Now, this is the variant cover, and the variant cover, I can't speak to when this, if they were launched at the same time. I think this might have been launched maybe just a couple weeks or maybe a month later, but the published the publishing date, in fact this doesn't have a publishing date on it, so I'm thinking maybe it was came out a little later, but the a cover came out in October of 1986. And 1986 was a very interesting time for me. uh, I was definitely I was, I think, what, 12 years old, and I started having kind of like feelings for the opposite sex. Like prior to 1986, I don't think I didn't like kind of daydream about like dating girls or that things of that. I was mostly focused on like just being a kid, right? And then 1986 hits, and one of the top, I mean, it was a summer full of blockbuster hit movies. Top Gun had come out earlier in the year. Karate Kid Part 2. I mean, you guys remember going to the theater to watch Karate Kid Part 2? Um, the highly anticipated sequel to Karate Kid, right? And that definitely was like it was a very romantic movie. Because Ralph Macchio's character Daniel goes to Okinawa to with Mr. Miyagi because Mr. Miyagi's dad is dying, and he meets Kumiko there, and they kind of fall in love. And she's played by uh, Tamlin Tomita Tamlin. I'm screwing up her name, but and she's a great actress. Um, but yeah, she's just so great. She's just so beautiful and charming in that movie, even with her like fake Japanese accent and all that. But yeah, instantly just like love that movie. Great soundtrack. Peter Cetera, "Glory of Love" was like a big hit that summer. And yeah, I just kind of like I was at of the age where I had like crushes on people at school. And that's one thing, because of the video last week I didn't even get to cover the comic book and the song from last week, and we'll just do a quick kind of like recap of that as well. I had meant to cover in last week's video this comic book, which had come out in March of 1986. And this was a huge, in fact, I almost think this was supposed to be DC's sort of, because this is post crisis, a DC reset with this book. This was supposed to be sort of DC's big event, or I guess its flagship project in 1986. But little did they know this little 4-issue miniseries that launched in March would steal all the comic book thunder from Man of Steel, and this would end up being for the next 5 or 6 years the comic book that would really define, not only redefine Batman, but just define the way comic stories were told. This graphic novel kind of format, the tone, the adult nature of the story, um, how dark things get in this story, and this is kind of where fans would gravitate toward. They didn't want to like cookie cutter, kind of like Superman type stories, where the hero saves the day and you reset and do it all over again the next week. They wanted more just a kind of gripping, cutting edge stuff where the hero goes through sort of ups and downs and deals with real um, sort of real issues. Like faced with real sort of violent, real life type adult themed issues. And yeah, it's really unfortunate. And from in March of 1986, the song I paired, if you go back and watch my shorts, which I upload shorts of all the comic book jukebox type books. So the song I paired with this was Sarah by Starship, which was charting the time The Dark Knight Returns came out. And I mentioned Sarah because Sarah was a girl in my class, and I'm not going to reveal any other details other than her first name. But she'd been in my class for, in my elementary school grade classes. Hey, Miss So, what's up? Thanks for joining. Yeah, Sarah had been in my fourth grade class. She was in my fifth grade class, and she was in my sixth grade class as well. So from 85 to 86, we were kind of just in the same class. And her mom was one of the PTA kind of recess monitors. So I was always hanging out with her mom. Her mom was like fantastic. Um, but yeah, at some point, I just really started developing these like emotions for her, like just like kind of having a crush on her. And when the Starship song came out, it kind of really it solidified those emotions even more for some reason. I was like, oh yeah, I think I like Sarah. And then this Starship song would come on and it just kind of like throw me into this like daydreaming mode where, like we're together, we're dating and like all that. But she didn't really care too much for me. I mean, we were kind of, I guess, friends, but not like we weren't like hanging out and doing things together. We were just kind of like classmates. That was just the context of, maybe I guess the closest we would get is maybe playing like wall ball or like Foursquare. That was the only time we would, I guess, engage each other, and it wasn't much because she had her friends and I had my friends, and we're all doing separate things. Um, but yeah, like definitely, like she was kind of like one of my first crushes in that weird tween stages, the early tween stages. Um, but then that didn't, it didn't last because we ended up going to junior high, and she went to a different, like we were at one of those like in between district schools where the high school and the junior highs it's kind of split. So half of my class would end up going to the cross town high school, and I would end up going to my high school. We're talking about 1986, October 1986. Now, this was from March of 1986. Um, so the song that we paired with this book is Sarah by Starship. Today's book, though, we're focusing on Man of Steel #1, from October of 1986. And again, the song I picked for this one is Stuck With You by Huey Lewis and the News. And Stuck With You is a great kind of romantic song as well. I just remember listening to it and it just it being catchy. Other than that, I didn't really like it. Wasn't one of my like daydream type songs. Definitely like Glory of Love by Peter Cetera. That was like, one of the songs you just like listen to and kind of daydream and have romantic kind of notions about people on that song. But Glory of Love, yeah, I think, Sarah was probably top of mind when Glory of Love was playing and stuff. So that's when I started kind of getting into like more romantic songs and listening to stuff like that. But yeah, Sarah would end up going to another uh, junior high. We'd be separated, and I don't think I ever saw her again um, after that, which is weird because we lived in the same town, um, and she was just like cross. But I didn't really see any of my classmates. It's like when once you like uh, it's not because our parents weren't friends or anything. It's like once we went up to different junior highs, that was kind of like that was almost like moving across the state or across the continent or whatever. It was just uh, I knew if I went to the other school, I could see her. Right, I could go to the high school, but by that time, once we'd gotten into high school, 3 years had passed, and we were just in completely different circles and kind of frameworks. So that was one of the unfortunate things about being in an elementary school that was split because my best friend Mike as well. I told you last time Mike had the best birthday parties. I'd ride over there all the time and play at his house and all that. Mike went to the other high school as well, so it was really um, sort of one of those traumatic elementary school like breakups that you don't you I mean you just kind of forced to deal with. They were classmates one day and now they're all at a different high school. But Mike, I did run into Mike a few times in junior high, and we would still continue to like hang out in junior high, but that would eventually like kind of end. Mike, um, again, we just kind of our lives took different turns and directions just by the simple fact we're at different schools. Um, yes, Huey Lewis in the News was the best. In fact, I was mentioning Huey Lewis. We could have done a lot, more Huey Lewis in the News songs throughout this entire period because they were just always on the charts. And but this week we just decided to go with that song, "Stuck on You." I was mentioning films, and again, Top Gun had come out. There are a lot of movies that came out in 1986. I mentioned Karate Kid Part 2. Some of the other movies um, were some of the other movies from 1986. There's a big one that I'm missing. Um, Crocodile Dundee. That's just because I did see Top Gun and Crocodile Dundee as a double header at the drive-in. Um, that one of my friends' moms took us to. That was fun. Um, and Top Gun was just a great seeing it in the back of my friend's like station wagon um, was kind of cool. Yeah, the drive-in, summer drive-in. We're in the back of a station wagon. Uh, it was just a really cool movie. And then by the time Crocodile Dundee started going, I think we fell asleep. It was kind of that movie was boring. Didn't really quite understand uh, why that was even a movie. we're too young, I guess, to appreciate Crocodile Dundee. Um, but I'm trying to think what other movies were. I'm like forgetting a lot of the big ones that had come out that year. One in particular, I'm trying to think what I'm missing. Um, oh, this is gonna bug me. But anyway, that was kind of like if you think of any movies from 1986, please post them up. The movie we're going to focus on, though, for this comic book, because those were some summer blockbusters. This had come out in October 1986, but the movie that coincided with the publishing of this book was The Color of Money. Now, I was too young to watch The Color of Money when it came out, but this would be Paul Newman sort of, I guess, last sort of, starring role. Um, he was older, an older actor by this time, and he starred with Tom Cruise. Again, Tom Cruise was hot because he had the top grossing movie of the summer in Top Gun, and then he comes out with Color of Money, which is also the top grossing movie in the fall. So his star was just like as hot as can be, and he would co-star with Paul Newman in this pool hustling. Because like you get into this world of pool hustling, and Tom Cruise is this really talented sort of pool hustler who's just sort of uh, wild and raw and kind of exposes, he's not a good hustler because to hustle means like you don't show bravado, you don't brag and do all these things. You kind of play um, to lure people in, and then like when the stakes are high, you show your true talent and ability. And anyway, they basically Tom and Paul Newman. Paul's sort of like a retired pool hustler himself, or billiard champion, and they kind of team up to hustle, go through these like tournaments and stuff, and hustle and make money and all this, and then their relationship gets fragmented and there's arguments, and then Paul Newman decides um, he's going to go back into hustling and doing it on his own. He doesn't need Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise brings back some of that passion and the juices, and then um, both of them get kind of hustled by Forrest Whitaker's character at the end, and they kind of lose their fortunes and go back to like square one. But then it ends on like a sort of a positive note, and um, it was a good movie. But I didn't watch the movie until later. Like I think I was in high school when I would actually watch the movie. Um, but in 1986, I knew the movie had come out, but it was rated R, so I didn't ever get a chance to watch it. I'd go back and watch it later, and it was a great movie. But 1986 again, just a time when the hormones were starting to rage and the body was starting to like change, and definitely a lot of good kind of memories of people, a lot of changes, not just physical, but again with the my school splitting and having to meet all these new kids in junior high, and that would be in 19 yeah be in fall of 86. This is this would be my entrance into junior high. And junior high was I had good memories of junior high because um I wouldn't say I'm like I was popular, but at least I wasn't like picked on or like the lower rung of the nerds as well. It's kind of like an I guess you'd say middle, upper middle of the pack on a social scale. What helped was I was in drama class, and we had several productions where we were doing. We had done "Beat of a Different Drummer," and I forget the playwright for that one, but we did that one, and we did also. Uh, I don't remember the play name, but I remember I was like a nerd who got shoved in a locker and had this soliloquy in the very beginning, um, about getting picked on, and you know um, just kind of talking about what life at school was like. And I think that role resonated with a lot of people in junior high because it was kind of like one of those like situations. I get shoved in a locker and put in there, and then I come out and I give this sort of like sob story about like what it's like, and who I am. And yeah, again, two productions during my junior high acting days. Um, the other one, I got a lot of laughs too. I was kind of like the town kid who would like, I was calling a dog, and the dog would eventually chase me, and I'd be running across stage. So yeah, like having done drama, you're kind of in with the cool kids, and um, the teacher there who did our drama teacher, she was just so incredible, and then the kids really loved her, but she would not stay at with us. In fact, my last year of junior high, um, we got a different drama teacher who was, she was a great drama teacher, but she was just not as popular as Miss Cravens. Miss Cravens was like loved by everybody, and then this new teacher, she kind of had to um, just get into a situation where it was like a losing, type situation when your favorite teacher leaves, and then this other lady comes in, and she's not as like charismatic, or not as yeah, funny or engaging as the previous teacher. Miss Cravens is a hard act to follow, and I think I'm trying to remember what um, the second drama teacher's name was. I think it was Miss Terry. Not Terry. Is that her name? Miss Carey, Mrs. Carey, something like that. She just um, again, she made class fun, but she just wasn't as popular as the previous teacher. But it was good memories all around. I was into drama, into music. I was doing, orchestra, drama. I was having a lot of fun. Um, and I had planned to do drama in high school, but I think music kind of took more of a front seat, and I had to give up drama. I couldn't do drama and orchestra at the same time, so um, I did get to be in the orchestra for a couple of musicals in high school, but um, that was the extent of. It kind of ended my acting career. Um, I never got to do high school drama, which is a shame because I did really enjoy doing drama in junior high. It was stressful. Okay, I had fun. I mean, memorizing your lines is stressful, but that's I think the beauty of like being in a play. You just get to do it so many times. You kind of remember it. I don't remember the lines now, but at the time you're in rehearsal all the time and you're practicing the lines constantly. So um, it was fun. It was really a very social. Like drama class was very fun because I get to go after school, stay after school with a bunch of kids I liked, my friends, and then we would have after drama. Um, Sometimes we'd have like Saturday drama sessions where we'd go over to our drama teacher's place, and she'd kind of chaperone sort of like parties and stuff. Um, and then after drama, we'd have those parties again too. And so they were just fun. They were kind of felt like we were, you know, like doing more adult like things, having these parties. No, not there was there alcohol or sex in these parties. They're just very mild parties where you get to hang out and talk life and stuff with kids your age. But yeah, that was a good time for me. Drive-in theaters, I miss drive-in theaters, I gotta say. Drive-in theaters, you just don't see them around in my area at all, um, which is kind of a shame. There's nothing better than like sitting in a car with bad audio and just watching something outside from outside, like in front of your car window or out again out the back of your station wagon. Those were definitely like good memories. Um, I saw quite a few movies at the drive-in theater. I think I remember seeing Gremlins um, in the drive-in. I believe I saw one of the like Superman 3 in the theaters as well, which was scary. That one scared me a little bit. No, I was in the theaters for Superman 3. I'm trying to think. There was another, maybe I saw Supergirl at the drive-in. That's probably what I saw. Um, but yeah, that was another time. Um, hopefully, I'm sure drive-ins still exist in pockets around the U.S., but definitely where I am here in the Northwest, they're hard to come by. I'm sure there are that around they're around, but I haven't been to one. Maybe I'll take my son to one if there is one uh, still active. All right, let's get to talking about this comic book. So I'd mentioned with the release of Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, DC had a plan um, after the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Uh, that event basically uh, it presented sort of these multiple timelines. Like there's all these infinite outcomes or parallel universes that exist on different planes because of the decisions and the different things that happen. And there's just infinite possibilities based on kind of like the multiverse, right? You make a decision and then splits a timeline and creates two parallels. But there's all these like infinite uh, herbs, and they really focus on like sort of the two big DC timelines, which is Earth One and Earth Two. And Earth One is sort of more uh, Silver Age based classical Justice League of America, Batman, the Trinity, Supergirl's in that one. Whereas Earth 2 is more focused on Golden Age um, timelines. It's the Justice Society of America versus JLA. Uh, it doesn't have Supergirl. It has like a golden age version of her and the golden age version of all the classic characters. Um, but these two, Earth One and Earth Two was kind of more like the what if of DC. It was kind of DC's way of creating this alternate, like what if type scenarios before What If magazine and or What If title in Marvel. It's kind of DC's What If, like, oh, this is a Earth 2 kind of story, an off world type story, a parallel universe type story. It's not, it's just kind of like, wouldn't it be funny if this happened? Well, it happened in this universe, right? Um, and DC really created this sort of split um, along a lot of their golden age content that continued to run, parallel to uh, the DC main content. Um, but it was just sort of a mess because you had all these like different characters that didn't exist in the same universe. You had all these like uh, sort of time trapped scenarios. People living in the Stone Age, people living in from the war periods. Like uh, comics that were still talking about like the Wild Wild West, and all these, and so there were just all these like different titles and characters that were kind of siloed in their individual time periods and timelines. And here was Marvel, where all the characters existed in one plane, one timeline, and they were interconnected, and you could create different. This is where comics were heading, right? Comics were heading toward a more integral, where you could have intertitle crossovers. And DC was having success with it, or sorry, Marvel was having success with this, and DC needed to basically kind of blow up everything and start over. And that's what they did with the Crisis event. And this is a post-Crisis comic book. In fact, the three big comic books, which we're going to cover, um, this is the first of three we're going to cover. It starts with the Trinity. They rewrite the modern uh, origin story and timeline for the Man of Steel, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. And this was a huge event in 1986. In fact, it was this 6-issue miniseries. They get the best in the business, John Byrne. They bring him over from Marvel, and they say, you know what? We're going to give you Superman. You're going to create the new construct for Superman. You're going to tell the modern story. You're going to redesign him. You're going to be given full liberty to take this character. And the John Byrne is kind of like the James Gunn of DC at this point, right? They're losing to Marvel. The content's just kind of everywhere, and they need to like have the success of the MCU, or I should say the Marvel comics in the DC. Because at this time, even Batman was like, it was popular, but it hadn't reached the heights of its popularity until around this period. So their content was just really struggling. Marvel had, all these great artists that were just kind of blossoming. They had very popular and robust sales of Spider-Man titles, X-Men titles, and Superman and Batman were still very popular and carried DC, but um, you know, it was just a slow decline. So they really just kind of uh, took a big gamble and had their version of Secret Wars to reset everything. And again, John Byrne was tasked with that. So John Byrne really comes in, kind of like James Gunn, to like uh, bring a brand new vision, a brand new direction for uh, content, characters and content that everybody loves, but just kind of losing to Marvel at the time. And this book, I love this book. I think it's great. I think in terms of like the reimagining, I guess you could say, of DC characters, they were all successful in my opinion. Um, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, all successful in this period of post-crisis volumes. Superman became a new volume. It became volume 2. Wonder Woman became a new volume, volume 2. Batman uh, stayed, Detective Comics and Batman continued with its serial count, but they just kind of Batman didn't change all that much, but they did introduce Frank Miller's version of Year One. We'll get into that as well. Not a big change for, I would say, Wonder Woman. Oh well, Wonder Woman's, I guess, a big change. Um, in terms of like some of the details around her origin story and where she came from, those are big changes. But you know, nothing was, I think, bigger than the transition for Superman, because Superman was the character that, like, if you don't have Superman, you don't have this universe. So there was a lot riding on John Byrne to um, have success with this new title. And in all fairness, John Byrne just brought a very, um, I think he took a great approach, but it was not the approach where comic book fans maybe wanted to see. Because at around this time, people wanted action. They wanted a very action driven story. They wanted, some killing, some violence, some sex. Um, this is where the hobby was heading. So when you see things like, Wolverine kind of like just slashing people and, um, taking people out, or you have Spider Man dealing with all these relationship driven um, scenarios, right? Where he's like in conflict with um, his feelings for Mary Jane and protecting her, and dealing with his secret identity and all the things around that sort of psychological thing. Superman was kind of like in this gray area where he wasn't gonna like kill or violently maim people, right? So everything kind of revolved around um, his reimagining the modern characters around him, building the stories around his community, right? So the focus was like on his origin story, which just tweaked details here and there. It wasn't all that different from what we had known. But I think the biggest difference was, you know, uh, Ma and Pa Kent uh, do not die. They are not dead by the time he's Superman. He doesn't, he's not Superboy in Smallville. He kind of grows up as a regular kid, makes a conscious decision to become a superhero. That's different. Like in Superboy, he was kind of prepped to do all the superhero work in Smallville, which is weird, right? You have all these powers and you're just solving like crimes like a local sheriff, right? And just in the vicinity of Smallville. I mean, Superboy would go and do things outside of Smallville, don't get me wrong, but his home base is Smallville. Um, which is weird. And then, he just grows up and he's like, okay, I'm going to move to Metropolis and just have a bigger territory to patrol. That was really the main difference, right? This one, Clark grows up, has this love for his community, his home of Earth, the people of Earth. Really sees himself not as Kryptonian but as an adoptive son of Earth, and makes a conscious decision to become Superman. And he reveals his identity to Lana, his high school sweetheart, and again moves to Metropolis, becomes a writer, maintains a secret identity, and then you have this sort of modern take on the Daily Planet, and Lex Luthor is about much more sort of uh, corporate power. Um, Lex Luthor Corp, right? He owns this very powerful company, has uh, influence in government and technology. He's got hands in on some of the top technologies. I think, if anything, Lex Luthor emerges as like a more ideal nemesis, right? Because they put a lot of thought and intelligence. He's not really coming out as a bad guy. He's just sort of in the shadows, doing all these you know, sub, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like subterfuge, right? And he's like undercover bad guy, but he's also realizes Superman is the only thing that would prevent anybody on Earth from stopping him, right? Other than superheroes like Batman or somebody, but Superman's the true sort of like threat to his world domination, right? Because this guy is just got the morals. He's um, somebody who can't be bought or, you know, he's a big blue Boy Scout essentially, right? So um, that's what this series really kind of reinvents. It spends 6 issues building, again, reestablishing the relationship between him and Batman. You got that post-crisis first meeting of Superman Batman. You got the post-crisis meeting of Clark and Lois. You've got the definition of his origin story, where you know how his relationships in Smallville, again, very close relationship. He goes back to Smallville, maintains this check in with his parents who kind of ground him, and he just is able to kind of go home and be himself and can confide in them rather than go to the Fortress of Solitude and talk to ghosts, right? It's like sort of a more, I think, identifiable avenue for that character to just, you know, be able to grow as a character, right? Just have these outlets of communication and support. So those are the big kind of changes. Now, not flashy, you know, not a lot of action. The action is just kind of like what you would see in a standard Superman. You know, him like saving people and um, stopping terrorists and stopping uh, things that are threatening the city, right? So in terms of like when you compare Man of Steel to like a Dark Knight Returns, unfortunately, any comic book fan will say, yeah, Frank Miller, Dark Knight Returns, comic book of the year. Um, but for me, personally, for me, I think this was the bigger, um, this was the bigger uh, sort of time horizon for DC investment, right? DC was investing a lot into this book or this character IP, and they said we're going to plant the seeds now and see down the road where it takes us. And it takes us to a great place. It takes us to eventually that action-packed, dramatic, you know, showdown between Doomsday and Superman and the death of Superman, and then all the subsequent characters that would come out of that, um, the resolution of that arc and the return. So, all in all, um, the post-crisis decision to go with this and create that new volume would lead to good things. It would just take some time. It wasn't uh, right out the gate. But volume two was very exciting. It just kind of like, you know, it was kind of old school meets new school, but it gave you sort of that week to week, or month, I should say, month to month anticipation of a new title. Let's see what Superman's going to get into this week. Let's see what characters are going to get reintroduced. You get a lot of reintroductions. Mr. McSittleplick would have a new sort of modern take. We'd get new modern characters. Dark Side definitely enters the picture eventually, and all these like kind of classic DC characters are given sort of this singular launching pad for in terms of telling new stories around those relationships and characters and scenarios. So all in all, I think Man of Steel leads to Volume Two success, and it's lost in Batmania. Batman definitely is driving the popularity at DC, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think um, it's not like Superman gets lost. Superman's still a popular character, but he's definitely like in terms of the marketability and the sales, he's taken a back seat to Batman, and that's not a bad thing. I think the strength of Batman ultimately, brings about the success of DC and where we are today. We're kind of DC. I think has still a ways to go to regain the popularity of the comic book community because I definitely think there's more Marvel, especially with younger kids, Marvel fanboys than there are DC fanboys. But I feel the tide will change eventually as we get this movie going and as we see more DC content. Um, I definitely, in my circle of people, uh, my circle of people love DC content more than Marvel. Uh, but I know that's not the case in terms of sales and what people talk about online. But again, we'll see what happens because I think the Superman Renaissance is we're just at the precipice of it. When it just fully hits, it's going to be a remarkable thing, and I'm just waiting patiently. And with that being said, I do want to focus on what DC is promoting as the Summer of Superman. It's an initiative that's going to be through comic books, but they're introducing a lot of new kind of Superman focused stories this summer. Supergirl is getting uh, her own volume reignited again, so you're going to see a new Supergirl series launch. And I think Supergirl is just the first of many Superman family related titles we'll see pop up and coming. I think we're going to see more. Again, they've just kind of initially uh, promoted and launched uh, an announcement that the Summer of Superman was happening. They made uh, they gave previews of some of the titles upcoming, but they haven't launched or released everything, which should be cool. Hey, what's up, August Aesthetic? Looking for old 70s manga of Lion Manu. Lion Maru. Oh yeah, yeah. Um, that you're talking about the uh, Tezuka Samu comic book, right? That's going to be hard to find. That's kind of rare in terms of. Hey, what's up, Mike? Yeah, they can't introduce too much, and I feel like um, I think that's why the animated series is a good um, venue for that. And Marvel's doing it too. Marvel's kind of like they're introducing more animation where they can kind of establish with the fans these are what the characters are like, these are what the universes are like, right? I think DC can do that with they've already got a real robust catalog of animated content. So if you're a DC animated fan, you're already aware of this universe. It's just that the mass audiences, they don't watch WB or they don't watch, actually, maybe they do watch a little bit of the WB, but they definitely don't watch the DC animated content. So it's kind of like you have to run these things and create this ecosystem of a singular timeline or a consistent, like, hey, it happened here, and then you can point to it. Like, it happened here in this series or this thing, and that thing will lead to, like, I'm just specifically focusing on the Green Lantern um, animated content. They've already kind of announced the live action, right, um, series that's coming. But how those two will integrate into one another. It remains to be seen. Wi-Fi, Wi-Files. Okay, is that through streaming or is it on like television? Not sure what the Wi-Files are. Is that like X Files, but like a different take on the X Files? Sounds intriguing. All right, I'll check them out. Wi-Files. Um, but yeah, we should see some good DC content. That's all we're hoping for, right? Maybe you loved Zack Snyder's watch. Zack Snyder's Watchmen was great. I think that's as good as you can get with a film rendition of that very complex comic book. Um, and I think ultimately, like, I wasn't a fan of his Superman, but a lot of people were. Um, I don't think he did a terrible job with some of the um, movies that he made. They just, to me, it wasn't like, as a DC fan, it just didn't hold any. Um, it wasn't a good representation of the comics. Let's just lay it out there like that. I mean, you know, I think he had a good. I think he had a good approach to like maybe filmmaking and special effects, and um, you know, kind of creating these action type films, but with a grittier edge. But to actually like build out these characters and give them a little bit more substance, I think he failed in that regard. So if you like just, I guess, a popcorn movie, maybe those are good popcorn movies. But um, if you wanted something like what Christopher Nolan did with The Dark Knight, which is kind of what we want, right? We want um, something a little bit deeper in terms of the story. Uh, and I wish Christopher Nolan or somebody like him would take that approach with Superman, because that's what we need. We just need three great, sort of like dramatic, deep, like thought provoking, um, a trilogy that's just from, takes the character through three stages of film that are interconnected, right? They're individual stories, but Nolan's Batman goes through such a big transition in all three movies. Bruce Wayne goes through such a big transition in those three movies to ultimately retire the cowl, right? From putting the cowl on to retiring the cowl. It's a great arc that's told, and I think Nolan's Batman is the best, um, second best comic book movie of all time. It's Christopher Reeve's Superman, and then Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. Nothing touches that in terms of comic book content. I don't care what you say, what you Marvel fanboys say. Nothing Marvel's produced can touch, um, or I should say, what nothing the MCU has produced can touch those four films. Yeah, Nolan's Batman, just a masterpiece. All right, we'll leave that there. And again, the summer of Superman, very excited for that. One thing getting lost in the Summer of Superman initiative, and they didn't really connect the two, but Batman Hush, you can bet a gajillion dollars that Superman will be an integral part of Batman Hush 2 and Batman Hush 3. And these are the reasons why you will see Superman in Batman Hush 2. First off, he was in Hush 1, very integral part of Hush, even though he's only in probably 2 books in that. Um, but Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee, they love Superman. Can you imagine them doing a Hush reunification without and leaving Superman completely out of the pages of Batman? No freaking way. Uh, you have two little Superman files working on a Batman book, so that's never going to happen. So Superman's going to have a very key role in Hush 2. You can bet on that. And Hush 3. So this Hush is being brought back as a trilogy. Hush is being brought back. This is the second part. We're going to get, I think, the third part in 2026. So they're really kind of accelerating this push because they know, okay, with Guns DC, we got to make the comic books as good as they can be, and that's why all hands are on deck. They brought Jeff Loeb back. Jeff Loeb does not need to write comic books. The guy's like a millionaire with his TV production. The guy, all the success he had with Smallville and his movie projects, he does not need to be writing comic books at the end of the day. He's coming back with Jim Lee because they want to finish what they started. Um, and so this is a passion project for both of them. They both don't need to be doing comic books. This is more about their legacy. This is more about the character they love, the characters they love. So if anything that comes out of DC that you should be really excited about is this Hush project, which again, the second installment in 2025. I think it's going to be, they said it's going to be like a 12 issue arc, and then you're going to get another 12 issue arc in 2026. So Summer of Superman is just going to turn into like the mid decade of DC essentially. So stay tuned for that. Very excited about all these announcements and things. It really makes me want to like get a pull list going again at my local LCS. I haven't bought like comics as they're coming out in such a long time, but this is really making me want to like, okay, I need to get every issue of Hush when it comes out, and but we'll see. We'll see. I don't have money to do that right now, but definitely the kid in me wants to like get every book as it comes off the newsstand or off the spinner rack. So yeah, that's where we are there. All right. So I promised you a comic book haul. And before we get into the haul, what I picked again, I only picked up one book for $2. We'll get into what that is. But I do want to cover what I picked up last week. I picked up a collection, and we're just going to go over the highlights. I'm not going to go over everything I picked up. We're just going to go over the highlights. All right, so first off, I want to thank my new local friend, and he generously gifted me these books. So shout out to Noel. We got a lot of great books from his collection, and just going to show you some of the highlights, not everything. We got this great, let me just put them in a little bit of a order here. I think that's the order I want to show them in. Yeah. All right, so the first book I want to focus on is we got a great set of John Byrne books from sort of the late 70s, early 80s, right when he was blowing up with his X-Men run. He was doing a lot of things for Marvel because of the popularity of his work on X-Men. So we have this great Byrne comic book covering interiors on Avengers 187. We picked that up. This is a key book. It's about a $20 book there. We also picked up covers and interiors he did on Captain America here. 248, 249. Love this cover here with the android Magneto thing and Spider-Man. Uh, that's a pretty. One thing I don't like is this. That you see this on the Marvel comic books at the time on a lot of the titles. This Marvel comic could be worth $2,500 to you, and you just see it, and you're just like, such a waste of space. I mean, I get it; it's that they were doing a promotion and all that, but it's just it detracts from such a such a pointless thing now when you look back at it. You just prefer to see a comic book that looks like this over like an ad right on the front part of the book. That's just an annoying thing to look at. We also picked up. This is a great one, especially if you're again. Um, Star Wars was the sci-fi hit of that era, but the this was sort of the follow-up to that popularity. They thought Battlestar Galactica would have the success of Star Wars. Definitely put a lot more thought into this story with the Cylons and um, their destruction of Earth, and the fact that the Earth, Earth had to escape in space armada and kind of fight them throughout space. Um, this was a great movie and TV show. I remember watching the movie later when I was like in fourth, fifth grade, and then watching the television show like earlier. Um, it was confusing because when I watched the television show, it was like they had returned to Earth, and it was like like an offshoot of these characters, like these two other guys who were sent to Earth, and they were just being undercover, or they had gone back in time. Yeah, they'd gone back in time, and they were on Earth, and they were there doing some undercover stuff, but they were just like communicating with the Armada in like a different time. So it was just confusing. So it was like all the TV stuff was not well thought out, but the initial project, the initial television series and the movie, I think was really good. And that's what you have here. The first, I think this is not the first. There's an official movie adaptation, and then they released sort of an ongoing series. And this is what you have here. Just a cool book from again this era that people have forgotten about. I know they had a sci-fi series from the 2000s that was really popular, but this old school one is the one the one I hope would they would revive. Who knows? They may revive something related to that or not. The other cool thing we picked up were these signed Death Mate comic books. We got one here, Death Mate Blue, signed by Sean Chen. That's cool. And we got Death Mate Yellow, signed by Bernard Chang. So that was really cool. Very excited to get those. Um, but in terms of the comic book, I think we were most excited to get. I'm going to show you now. Was this next book? Let me just get these in here. I'm going to get these in here. It's going to bug me. Now this one is, you guys know my love for Superman. So anytime we get a Superman book, which we did get, I think we got 3 Bronze Age Superman books and a Bronze Age Wonder Woman book. I didn't pull those out, but those were definitely big ads as well. But this was definitely the best, I think. Some of the best. We got 3 copies. Okay, I got 3 copies of this, so I can make one of it. They're all high grade too, but these are very flimsy, sort of special preview books. They almost feel like they don't feel like comic books. It's like remember when you used to get the sort of the school, like Scholastic reader, like just one page, or like a foldable thing with like puzzles and stuff, just like newspaper print. like book. That's kind of what you have here, like a newspaper paper quality cover, very flimsy. So these definitely need to be in a bag and board and not read and touched too often. But the preview of Superman Adventures, the animated series. Now this would be going to be a comic book as well, but it was based off the Superman Adventure, which was a follow up to Batman Adventure success. Batman the animated series was very successful, and Superman was a part of that series as well. And then what do you do when something's successful like that? You create offshoots, and they did Superman Adventures. I really enjoyed this series. I did watch, um, the initial kind of first season of the Adventures. Great, just great. Uh, you could tell the people who created the series understood the character. They didn't necessarily stick to the comic book, but they stepped to it well in the modern version of the comic book well enough. So it's really this is sort of like yeah, it's an adaptation of like Burns again. It really is tied to Burns' rewrite of the modern history. They adopt a lot of the Byrne elements into this animated series, especially in relation to the Lex Luthor character. Lex Luthor character really is like, um, he's just really smart and charismatic and not the like, you know, he's not the angry kind of lunatic character you see throughout the history from the golden age to the modern age of what we knew of Lex Luthor, right? This guy's more calculating and suave, and um, you know can work, expose Superman's weaknesses, and take advantage of them um, without really, kind of not being so hands on. I mean, eventually he's outed as the enemy, but Superman never really takes him out. It just kind of like tries to deal with him in, you know, the through law and justice. But Lex Luthor's gonna uh, persist through incarceration and all that. All right, so I'm gonna focus now on, and I've shown this off, I think, on two occasions now. This is like the third time I'm gonna do it. So the real sort of like, I guess, treasure in all of this was a set of about, I want to say, 50 cards, and this is Transformers Series 1 trading cards that were released by Hasbro. And again, I got 50 out of 187. Don't have the whole set, but um, I'd say I have about a third of the set. I just want to count them. I haven't actually really counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So yeah, I have about 40 cards, 40 to 50 cards out of the 187 cards, 82 card set. Sorry, 192 card set. So I have about a quarter of this set. But I'm going to just show you some of the highlights. And really, the highlights are the character profiles here. They have a lot of scenes from the movie, animated series, but the highlights are definitely the cards I'm about to show you. Now, I wish I had, and there are some we're missing, and I'll just go over what I lament I wish I had. But we have the big ones: Optimus Prime, great condition, by the way. Yeah, this is. I'd put it in about a 7, maybe an 8 or 7. Got Jazz. love jazz. We got Megatron. It's a big card. Megatron is even better condition than Optimus, which is awesome. We got Starscream. We got Thrust. And we got Devastator, the Constructicons. So yeah, that was just a big, nice surprise because this is not that I collect this kind of stuff, but I definitely love Transformers. We even got Mirage. Look at that, we got Mirage. Um, I guess the I would have loved to have Sideswipe. Um, I would have loved to have uh, Soundwave, Ravage, Thunder. Sorry, Laserbeak. Would love to have the Dinobots as part of this collection. All we have here is the closest thing to the Dinobots is actually this, like, that sort of a cutscene from the cartoon. A lot of these great cutscenes here, the Constructicons. Yeah, I think there's one where Optimus is rolling out. That one would have been nice to have. Maybe one where Optimus and Megatron are battling. I'm sure that's a card that we don't have. But yeah, just a great set. Again, we got the two big ones. We got Optimus and Megatron. So really happy with this card pickup. That was really the highlight of the stuff we got. And again, I'm not looking to sell any of this stuff. All of these books are going to stay in my collection. But that card set is just gonna. I mean, it's just. I think it's just gonna be one of those things. Transformers is ingrained. We've got a generation of kids into Transformers, and I know they're planning to do a lot of stuff in the movies with Transformers coming up. So it's just going to drive the value of stuff like that up. And hopefully, my son loves Transformers. I've been showing him the season 1 and season 2, so he knows all the characters. He loves Optimus and the Autobots. He likes the Decepticons too. So all those things just uh, place a lot of value on that kind of pickup. Um, let's get into what I picked up this week. Before I do that, I did show off books from my last haul, and I just want to focus on a couple books from my last haul because I didn't really get to talk about. I was so focused on like getting into the stuff we picked up in the comic book collection. I wasn't able to really talk about like this book, right? It's a really cool book. It's a cover by Bernard Chang, first off, and this is a book I think we'll be talking more and more um, during AAPI Heritage Month. But it's the Chinese Superman. It's the first appearance of an Asian Superman, a Superman in China, and this is the kind of the variant cover to this first appearance issue called New Superman. This was, launched back in 2016, so it's been some time, and I think we're in a very different place with regards to a Chinese character, especially one, like a Chinese version of a Superman, character as revered as Superman is. I know this is probably during a time when maybe DC was trying to promote and do more stuff, market more stuff in China, but Let me know what your thoughts on this is. I think it's a cool comic book. The fact that it's the first we get an Asian Superman or an Asian version of the Superman. Um, but yeah, don't mind having this. Again, I picked it up for 50 cents. Don't mind having that key component of Superman. The other book we picked up was this for half a cover. Anytime you can get like a big book like this is a first print, by the way. First cover, Jane Foster's Thor cover appearance. Thor #1, we picked that up. Didn't get a chance to like really appreciate the significance. $2 pickup on essentially what, $20, $30 book. That book had reached heights of $50 right around the film. Now it's just kind of died back down, which is fine. It's not all about film related stuff. Just a great Russell Dodderman cover there. Great character in the female Thor. All right, so in similarly to that pickup, we picked up another book, half a cover at Half Price Books, and we do this. Whenever we run into books that are key books, kind of pricier books for $2, we pick them up. This is Dark Knight's Metal #2, first print. Picked up for $2. This is a $20 book, but it's really key because it's a second cameo appearance, but on the last sort of um, the last pages of this book, we have in a flash page, splash page, we have the second cameo appearance of this. I think they're called the. It's a team. It's a team of like Batman Who Laughs, the Red Death, which is like a Batman Flash amalgam. We have all these Batman related sort of darker characters, and again, they're revealed to us kind of in full view on the last splash page of this comic book. So this is, I think, the key issue in terms of that appearance in this run. The first full appearance of the Batman Who Laughs is a big book. That's like, I think, a $50 to $100 book. I have read parts of this metal. I haven't had a chance to sit down and read the whole because it's a pretty voluminous thing. And you have Dark Knight's Metal, you have all this lead up to the metal series, and then you have death metal, and you have all these like spin-off titles. So I haven't really had a chance to encompass the entire thing, but I know it was very popular at the time, um, and it was definitely a very different direction. It was kind of one of those like big event type crossover type series that brought in the whole DC universe. It threatened the existence of this timeline. Things were going downhill, and then the heroes unite and they fight back the forces, and they ultimately um, destroy the plans of these like darker multiverse type characters. Right? They really are multiverse characters. They break some kind of like time frame, and they invade and kill Batman. Essentially, right? They kill Batman and infect this timeline of DC. Let me know your thoughts on Dark Knight's Metal. Is this something like worth hanging on to, you think, or is it a one and done that DC will never kind of revisit the stuff again? Um, what are your thoughts on the Batman Who Laughs? I personally think, from a design standpoint, he looks great. You got this sort of Joker Batman kind of amalgam thing happening here. I think the amalgam thing, and then again, you got the demon Robins there. That's pretty just creepy, right? So, but like all these kinds of series, it's just like, Are we going to see? You think this is going to play out in some larger content, or is it again like a one and done? We don't want to see Batman Who Laughs ever again. Your thoughts on that? Whether you liked it or hated it. Okay, Miss So liked the Batman Who Laughs character. All right, that's a good thing. I will like anything Miss So likes. Um, but yeah, again, the big things were this comic book, great '90s book here, and of course the Transformers cards. All right, well that does it for me. Again, the comic book haul. Our haul was just one book. Got this for half a cover at Half Price Books this week, and nice addition to the collection. Again, I've been kind of collecting the metal series for the Jim Lee covers, and nice to finally get sort of like the big title book in this series. But still getting for that first Batman Who Laughs appearance. Who knows? I may pick up more of these. I may just trade them or sell them. And again, shout out to my new local friend, another new local friend, G. Go follow him. His channel is called G Lantern Comics, and he's a local guy. Puts out really great content. A lot of haul. He's doing a lot of picking up a lot of comic books. Big DC comic book guy like myself, and we're trying to get together and trade some books. Now, the thing is, I think he's so DC focused. I don't really want to like trade away all my DC, but I do have DC books that I would gladly trade for like Superman books. So I think he's trying to put together like his Superman doubles, some of the Marvel stuff I'm looking for, and I'm just trying to pick up all the DC stuff that I don't want. I do. I'm willing to trade all the Batman stuff I have. So we may have we may be able to do something there. Got a lot of Batman related books that I don't I don't want to like sell or give away because I do collect Batman myself. But at the same time, I'd rather if I'm going to trade those books or get rid of those books, it would be for like Superman books. So we'll see how that transpires. But yeah, expect to see a trade with G Lantern Comics coming up soon. And will you and Jeff be doing the live? Yes, we will. We'll be on tomorrow night doing our live. And we're going to talk all the stuff that's been coming out. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got Daredevil's come out, the Captain America movie. We've got all these projects again lined up at DC. We've got a bunch of summer movies that I think kind of things to look forward to, right? Trying to think what in particular I'm looking forward to from the summer flicks. Um, the new Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise looks pretty good. Um, what else? Yeah, Fantastic Four. I'm excited. I don't know why people are having problems with the Fantastic Four movie. It looks great. Yeah, there's a new Mission Impossible movie that's coming out this summer. So it's like geriatric Mission Impossible. I mean, Tom Cruise is what, like, he's got to be like close to 60, maybe 60 years old now, or 70. He's like up there in age, um, which is fine because I mean, he looks great. I think he still looks great, but at some point, he, you know, he's he's just going to be too old to do those action scenes. Um, but yeah, more power to him. Like hopefully that doesn't get AI CG involved. CG AI, like an AI version of him. Um, what's the movie that was really excited about? Oh, yeah, yeah, the Goonies announcement. So the Goonies is happening. It's really happening. Um, because Steven Spielberg, they made the announcement, I think, recently. Steven Spielberg is uh, producing the movie. They have commitments from, I think, all the cast members. So all the original kid cast members are coming back, including Josh Brolin and including, uh, oh, what's her name? The actress. Well, both actresses, but oh, who's the Goonies actress? I'm forgetting here. Carrie Green was Andy. Martha Plimpton. So they're bringing, Martha Plimpton is. Oh yeah, rest in peace, Gene Hackman. Thank you for reminding me. So, um, we lost Gene Hackman, and the details of the death are uh, kind of mysterious, kind of concerning. Um, Gene Hackman was found dead at his home, along with his wife, who was found dead, and along with a dog that was found dead. Um, but there's no, I guess police are saying no evidence of like, wrong. I mean, like a break. There was no forced entry into the home. Obviously, they haven't released details of the autopsy, but they're saying no foul play was involved. It looked like something, but at the same time, there was no gas leak or nothing. It's just weird. You just find like three. The dog died. The two other dogs on the property were alive, but the husband and wife, Jean's second wife, um, was Japanese American woman, um, were found dead in their home. It's just yeah, it's weird. And I know they had a press conference today announcing, uh, releasing some of the details. I'm going to take a look at it, but I don't know anything a part of what I just said. I'm sure there's something more revealing that's been revealed thus far, but it's just weird. And but anyway, we lost a generational talent in Gene Hackman. And again, my first exposure to Gene Hackman was his portrayal of Lex Luthor in Superman the movie, and I loved him in so many. He's been in so many movies over the years. I mean, it's countless. His filmography is countless. But his role in Royal Tannenbaums was really iconic. Um, Again, he playing the bad guy in Unforgiven was really another great role. Um, I remember him in that Will Smith movie, you know, where he's off the grid and he's kind of playing the person who's trying to keep them off the grid and alive. Him and Will Smith, right? It's this ex-CIA guy there. Um, that was a great role. He's just been in so many, um, you know, so many Academy Award-winning roles and performances. Um, real, real tragic loss. And I'm really hoping it's. I don't know. It's just weird that normally when you have a loss like this, it's just you're hoping for it to be of natural causes and or something related to it being just you know where maybe he was struggling with something health related, but succumbed to that. That's even guess, more acceptable than somebody possibly ending his life before it, it, you know, it was time. So we're hoping there's no foul play involved, but we'll see. But yeah, thank you for mentioning him. He's just in the summer of Superman, and with a new movie coming out, um, we lost Margot Kidder, we lost Christopher Reeve, we lost um, uh, Ned. The actor's name Ned Beatty. We lost Ned Beatty, and we lost Valerie Perrine. So many of the actors from that original Superman cast we've lost, and to have Gene kind of join that list, it was, I'm sure there'll be a lot of tributes. I hope DC does. I know they've not put out any kind of official, because again, the details we don't. Again, I've I am mourning, but I've yet to really kind of process it until I really know the details around what happened. Um, but I think a lot of people are kind of waiting and seeing, why we got the new why we got this news of Gene Hackman's death, and we're just waiting to kind of see what happened, what really happened. But I know DC will probably um, pay tribute. I hope the Academy pays tribute during the Academy Awards. But yeah, a lot of things are kind of in motion right now, and I know people are just processing this. It was just really like it was what, yesterday that we got the news, so we're just really still sort of processing this and dealing with it. But yeah, phenomenal acting talent, phenomenal human being from what I hear. Everybody, not he's not, he's obviously has his issues, and he hasn't been a perfect human being, but who among us has? But he's a real person. You know, he's the kind of person that you respect, because you know he had true talent. He wasn't he was pretty transparent about his struggles and what he was dealing with, and also a very private person, but professional, and again, just an outstanding career. So, really hoping his family has closure, and wishing the Hackman family um, all wishing them, sending them uh, positive thoughts and prayers as they deal with the loss. Okay, well, that's going to do it for me. Thanks for checking in and tuning in, guys. We'll see you back here. Just going to call this Otaku Weekly. Not going to do Jukebox. We'll do Jukebox next week if we have time, but kind of just keep it more whatever, keep it as fluid as possible. Just whatever's um, on top of mind, and keep it more conversational. All right. Thanks, Miss Sel. Have a great weekend. See you soon.